Здравейте.
Good morning. Hello, everyone.
Convenience of everyone, because I see very many familiar faces of entrepreneurs, of venture capitalists, of ecosystem builders who are working a lot with international stakeholders. I think it will be easy if we continue in the session in English. For anyone who would like to ask a question in Bulgarian, we will of course address it in Bulgarian, so it will be a very dynamic bilingual session. And this is the official start. So welcome to this very special Ask Me Anything session, where we want to bridge policy and practice and understand what Europe's innovator needs so that we can get to the next level. My name is Irina Obushtarova, and I'm co-founder and strategic advisor at The Recursive, the tech outlet which is covering the innovation ecosystems in Central and Eastern Europe. And I'm very honored to be the host and to be the moderator of this session for an open dialogue between innovators and the institution leaders from Europe. As we all know, Europe is currently at a very important turning point. The ambition is here to lead innovation, to become globally competitive, and to create a fertile ground for startups and scale-ups. And in this context, I firmly believe that Central and Eastern Europe is no longer a region that is just catching up. On the contrary, it is becoming an important and powerful engine of technological progress, talent, and entrepreneurial energy. So the question is no longer if we can innovate, but how we can scale and how policy can be a partner, not a barrier in this process. So what do we still need to get to the next level, and how can policies reflect better realities for entrepreneurs, investors, ecosystem builders, the realities that they face on the ground? Today we have a very rare, I believe, opportunity to ask questions directly to the three key figures shaping Europe's innovation landscape. Mrs. Ekaterina Zakharieva, on my right, European Commissioner for Startups, Research and Innovation. On my left, Svetoslava Georgieva, Chair of the EAC Fund Board. And last but not least, Stefan Tsalov, Senior Head of Unit, Institutional Relationships for Nordics, Baltics, and Central and Eastern Europe at the European Investment Fund. And before, yes. Before I open the floor to your questions, we will start with a very short framing round. And I would like to invite each of our speakers to take maybe 2 to 3 minutes to share which initiatives are they currently most focused on, and what kind of topics or areas fall within their expertise, so that you know how to which topics you can address them while they're on the floor. I would like to give the word, of course, first to our Commissioner, Mrs. Zakharieva.
Thank you so much. As you may know, I'm Commissioner for Startup Research and Innovation, so obviously my focus is on startup and scale-ups, research and innovation. And I'm a person who tries to be efficient, and to be efficient, I think you should really set a clear goals and clear priorities. So the priorities for the remaining part of this year are really implementation of the Startup and Scale-up strategy, the Innovation Act that everybody is waiting in the beginning of the next year, and 28 regime. Why these two acts are so important? I know that sometimes when people hear about new initiatives legislative from the Commission, it's always okay, another regulation. We don't need more. We should implement what we already have adopted. But this will be a different type of regulation. And I think that many people are talking a lot against regulation, but actually smart regulation can help really and boost the innovation and competitiveness, which happens. And we know how to do it. And I give one example, like fintech, for example. Smart regulation, tackling the fragmentation led to really unicorns in fintech technology in Europe. So the goal is knowing how to do it, to remember how we can do it, and really to tackle the fragmentation through the 28 regime, which should create a really easy, smooth path to the market of 27 member states, to all the innovative companies. And even we are discussing, should we limit the 28 regime only to the innovative companies, or should we open and give an option to all the companies in Europe? And the other is the European Innovation Act, which will help the innovators to easiest access to the market, easiest testing to their innovative products, pre-commercial public procurement. So those are the focuses that I'm really working and the priorities for the next 1 year. For the whole mandate, I really think that because Leto was a panelist in the first day, I think, Monica? It was first day, Enrico. He was talking a lot about the fifth freedom. He called it the fifth freedom, which is a free movement of knowledge and talent in Europe. So I like this brand, Fifth Freedom, but the goal is actually to create a true, real union of innovation, union of innovation. So it's really working with the member states to coordinate better, to do better, because we have limited resources, and I think we should do better with the limited resources, public resources that we have. How this can happen is better coordination, tackling the overlaps that we have sometimes, unfortunately, the programs, and again, complete the single market. It's a must. I think that we have now aggressive war at our continent. Our security is at stake. Unfortunately, we have unpredictable partner across the Atlantic. So if not now, if we don't use the political momentum now, I don't know when. So I really think that we should use this political momentum and complete the single market.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Zahareva. Svetoslava?
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here for a second year at the Green Transition Forum. It goes without saying, and I said it a few times, congratulations. It's really amazing that this is happening in Sofia. So my name is Svetoslava Georgieva. I'm the chair of the EIC Fund, and I'm extremely proud to work for one of the boldest and most successful initiatives of the European Commission to date in supporting startups. It's bold and it's successful not only in the terms of unique form of financing it provides, the combination of grants and equity together with the private market, but it's also unique that it gives a platform for the Commission for the first time to face startups and investors from Europe directly and to speak to them in a safe and productive environment. So our role at the EIC Fund Board is to make these investments happen in the easiest and quickest way possible. It's to help these companies grow in our portfolio, to find the co-investors and the expertise that they need to grow in the future champions of Europe. And of course, to build the credibility of the EIC fund, because you can imagine being a bold strategy coming from the public sector. In the beginning, it's not easy. You need to convince the market that as a public investor, you're not there to crowd out the market, but to actually crowd in the market with their financing and their expertise to scale up these companies. So this is exactly what we have done in the past few years. We are currently invested in over 280 companies, so about 1.2 billion, with another almost 1 billion in immediate pipeline that is being due diligenced and negotiated by our colleagues and investment advisor, European Investment Bank. So this process is ongoing, and the EIC fund has turned into the largest investor in deep tech in Europe by far, with almost 5 billion allocated to the fund. And also one of the largest globally. And when it comes to the market, and we're especially proud for creating a community of deep tech investors around the EIC fund, the so-called Trusted Investor Network, where we've collected and worked very closely on co-investing, but also building strategies and policies I think at the moment it's 111 funds, and the number is growing. And these are some of the largest and most impactful deep tech funds in Europe and globally. And I don't want to throw big numbers, but their assets under management are 336 billion. So this is what our companies have access to through that network. And of course, the expertise to help build the next steps. It was announced that the next step is scaling up those companies. So we're obviously very much involved in also building the Scale Up Europe Fund, which is a very important, critical next step for Europe. And the involvement and the step of having a public investor to having an anchor public investment into a private-driven and private market run and managed fund of this scale and ambition to help companies compete globally, but also bring the competitiveness from technologies to the big industries in Europe is absolutely essential for developing the European Commission going forward. I'm saying we because I have the privilege of working with some of the top experts coming from the deep tech area in the board of the EIC fund, and also the EIC board in general. And just lastly, last but not least, I'm also part of the member of the investment committee of the InvestEU program. I don't think it has been mentioned a lot, but it's actually the largest program supporting investments by the European Commission by providing a guarantee, including for green transition, including for building industries that are clean, and including for building innovation through investors, but also directly investing in R&D projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Sessuawa. Stefan, maybe you can share also which are the projects that you're most excited about and currently working on, and which topics of expertise would you cover here today on the panel?
Thank you. Pleasure to be part of the panel. My name is Stefan Salf. I'm part of the European Investment Fund. I guess everybody knows about the European Investment Fund. We're the largest limited partner in venture capital funds in Europe. To date, we have invested more than 45 billion across the continent. And with this, we support from seed stage or pre-seed all the way to scale up. I think both the Commissioner and Svetoslava named the problem that we are all dealing with today in Europe, but not only. It's scaling up, which is a problem in Western Europe. It's even bigger problem, I would say, in our region. And then the problem in Europe is how do we create liquidity? How do we exit the companies? This is a problem also prevalent in the US, but in particular in Europe, given that our stock exchanges are not as deep, not as liquid, it's even a bigger problem. On our side, there are a number of initiatives we are kind of co-building together with the Commission. I think we're partnering with EIC, or our investee funds are partnering with EIC and co-investing in the companies, mainly as a program that we are trying to put on the market today. We have European Tech Champions Initiative, which is a 5 billion fund investing in funds in Europe that are aiming to raise more than 1 billion of capital under management. And with this, obviously being able to invest in large tickets in underlying companies, tickets beyond 100 million. This is something on a pan-European level. I think for the region, there are a number of initiatives we're trying to spearhead, also on a local level. They deal mostly with the growth capital. I wouldn't call it so much scale-up, but probably most of you that are in the industry know that when we speak about Central and Eastern Europe, the gap is at a much lower stage. Beyond Series A, Series B, it's very difficult to find capital, and typically companies tend to migrate very early to Western Europe, or most of the cases to the US. Myself, just to kind of frame the discussion and let you ask questions, I've been part of the local ecosystem for the last 10 years. As part of VIEV, I was involved in Bulgaria a lot with the Jeremy program. but not only. I was part of pretty much each initiative that the European Investment Fund has done in Central and Eastern Europe in the last 10 years. Currently, I'm a team that focuses on partnerships in Central and Eastern Europe, the Baltics, and the Nordics. So in that light, happy to take questions, and maybe just to also position Europe and the achievements over the last decade, to throw some figures. 10 years ago, the European venture capital market attracted 43 billion in total. Today, this is an amount that the venture capital market in Europe is attracting per annum. So we have grown as an ecosystem tenfold. Back in 24, for the last 10 years, the venture capital ecosystem attracted close to $1.5 trillion of euros, which is an immense amount and an immense growth. For example, in the US, the growth was from 250 billion to 1.2 trillion. So obviously, we're growing from a lower scale, but we're growing much faster than the US. So I think when we kind of speak about the challenges, we should also take stock of the successes because it's an early ecosystem. There's obviously hurdles. We're a single market in the making. There's a lot to be done. And despite these challenges, I think a lot has been achieved and has to be recognized. So happy to take any questions from the crowd.
Thank you, Stefan. This is a very important point. We should celebrate how far we have gotten, especially also here in Central and Eastern Europe. I've been part of the ecosystem for the last 6 to 7 years, and I'm very happy with the evolution that we currently see. But as mentioned, now the question is, how do we get to the next level? And usually, as a journalist, I have the privilege of asking the questions. But this time, at the Recursive, we decided that we're going to turn this dynamic, and we're going to leave the ecosystem to ask their questions to the experts that we have today on the stage. So they're not here just to speak, they're here to listen, and they're here to answer whatever bothers you or you're curious about and you would like to address. I'm going to share some practicalities of how the session is going to continue. So the one way you can ask questions is through Slido, and I'm going to ask the colleagues, yes, perfect timing. So you can scan the QR code and post your question there. I encourage you to share your name and maybe the name of the organization so that we understand a bit better the context that the question is coming from. But we want to keep it still dynamic. So my colleague, Anna Atanasova, here on the left, is also prepared with a microphone that she can also give if you would prefer to address the podium directly. And then you can raise your question. Okay, raise your hands. I see already initiatives. Let's begin. Ask real questions. Let's give real answers. Let's keep it informal and have an honest dialogue. I think this is our chance today. Anna, maybe you can start with the lady. I'm sorry. Please share your name and also the name of the organization that you're coming from.
Thank you very much. My name is Mariana Hamanova, and I'm Executive Director of Clean Tech Bulgaria. We support innovation deployment in SMEs, corporations, but we also support startups and scale-ups. My question would be around the complementarity and synergies between the different instruments, between the different stages of growth of the companies. And just as a connecting question, it is quite difficult for the companies to navigate around the different instruments. Do you envisage some kind of a fast-track mechanisms or something which will support the companies to grow faster, having the whole pipeline from the beginning, just like a plan? So if they succeed with one instrument, then the options to be mentioned from the beginnings, because this is what actually it's the biggest problem, especially when we talk about public funding, that the time sometimes it's quite long if you don't do the initial planning from the beginning. And this is actually my question.
Just maybe a quick follow-up. Are we speaking about equity instruments or?
Yes.
A combination,
I think I understood the question. I think it's a really good one, and we are asking ourselves how to make the life of our scientists innovators and entrepreneur more easy. You're absolutely right. Sometimes it's really difficult to navigate to the other programs that we have. I mean, not only Brussels centralized instruments, but also the synergies with the national ones, which is really, really crucial. What we do, because now we're in the middle, more or less in the middle of this programming period, try to improve the situation now, not to wait for the next MFF or the next Horizon Europe program. There are different instruments using AI, using the digital tools that we have, like One-Stop Shop. We have a really smart, and we will launch really smart apps, smart search, as we call it, that will show to you what is the best available instrument and the program for your business or for your project, if it's not a business, if it's researcher. I already mentioned in my previous panel that really the contact points in the member states are crucial. So in every program, there are contact points. They have to be more active. They have to go directly to the possible beneficiaries, possible applicants, and to explain this is also so important. But you ask two questions, actually. It's difficult to navigate what to do to help them to find the best instrument, but also this smoother pipe to the whole journey. Actually, we try to do it, but we have to do better, I agree. Horizon was mentioned a couple of times, and I really believe it's a unique program because you have the whole actually journey of the science became innovation, and one discovery became innovation, then go to the market. We have the European Research Council, which is the fundamental research part of the program, which is absolutely bottom-up approach. It's a curiosity-driven science. We don't limit what type of project we're going to finance. In the European Research Council, then we have this transition part, which are for those scientists who want to become entrepreneurs. And this is an absolutely direct pipe through this part of European Research Council to the European Innovation Council and European Innovation Council Fund. So in European Innovation Council, we have the Pathfinder, which is a grant scheme for the low tier level, which is technical readiness level. And then you have Accelerator, which is again grants, but as Stanisław was talking about, this is unique what we have, and I think it's unique in the world. You have this grant, because sometimes you need grant, not only equity, and then you can combine with equity, which is the European Innovation Council Fund. And of course, I agree that we should improve the synergies between the programs and the European Innovation Fund, which is not direct equity, and the tech initiatives that the EIBs will launch actually this month. Or did you launch it?
It should be by end of the month, yes.
Yeah. It's investments in fund of funds, which will be complementary to what we will launch in the beginning, latest in the beginning of the next year, this European Europe Scale Fund, which will be direct equity investment. But the goal is, again, to motivate the private money. Because you know that you absolutely agree with you that we have really huge successes in the last decades, but still the needs are much higher. And again, only with public instruments, it's never enough. So for the next MFF, we are going to merge the programs that exist. But Horizon Europe will remain. First, because it's a really good program. Everybody who is beneficiary. Yes, there are weaknesses. Time to grant is a bit longer that we want to be, but we are improving. And actually, in Accelerator and the European Innovation Council Fund, the time to decision is already 8 weeks, yeah? Which is actually the time to the grant for the private VCs. So obviously, only for 4 years, and as she said, it was not easy. It's a public money to invest in the direct equity, to set such kind of fund with the public money. At the same time, to convince the private investors that they should work, it's good for them to work with us, and to create this huge network with exactly now 111 investors who co-invest with us, and for every euro that we invest, we manage to leverage and attract 3 private, which is quite good. So, and this is for 4 years since the program is existing. It's a good success and it's good, I think, story that we should tell more. So simplification, better synergies, complementarity, and of course, work harder for simplifying the application forms, the reporting methods, and so on and so forth. So this is what we try to do. Mm-hmm. Hopefully successful.
Svetla,
you tell us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Svetla, you wanted to add something, maybe short, so that we have also time
Yes,
for
I'll be very short, but very practical. What I just want to say is it's true that it's very difficult to navigate this system, and there is no point of denying it's evident. I've been lucky to see what Europe can offer in terms of instruments from a national level, from my involvement in the fund of funds, and through all that there is in Europe level through InvestEU and EIC. And I can tell you we have a very unique and a full set of instruments to support companies and innovation. Starting from the EIC, which is a unique way of supporting groundbreaking innovation and the next champions of Europe in critical technologies through grants and equity. Then taking venture debt, which is support through the InvestEU program, and it's an excellent product created by the European Investment Bank. This is probably one of the sort of first instruments there to help these companies transition into bigger companies and start scaling up. It's still not everything that we need, but it's there, and it's very complementary to what will be done with the Scale Up Europe Fund. And of course, EIF, who are the big institution in Europe fueling funds that pour money in innovation. Really what we currently need and what we are missing is real scale-up financing and real partnership between public and private investors. And if we do that, both at the fund-of-fund levels, growing the VCs, helping VCs reach those size that we don't have, like our largest fund is 1 billion. I mean, if you're talking about a round of 300, 400, 500 euros and a ticket of 200, it's clear that these companies cannot meet these needs. So grow the VC size, have a Scale-Up Europe fund, which is critical to invest directly in many ways, which we're going to talk about, in scale-ups, and also continue the support through other, like venture debt, and make those complementary. Synergies are key between national, EU, and within.
Thank you, Svetoslava. You're paying attention also to a very important aspect. Yes, public funding, but we also need to change the mindset when it comes to investments from the private sector and also private institutional investors. I would like to maybe address one question, which is again from the audience, and then we can switch to Slido and see what questions are there.
Krasen Dimitrov, founder and president of Volterra Bulgaria, innovator and a serial entrepreneur. I started company on 4 continents. Recently, I came back to my home country. I'm very impressed by what I found here. We got funding, pre-seed funding from Global Investment Fund, and we got a grant from the EIC. Very excited to see such a deep thinker from Bulgaria as Commissioner for Innovation and Startups. The one negative, and I want to address it both to Svetoslava and to the Commissioner, from the moment we were selected to receive grant from EIC to actual execution of the contract, it took 14 months. This is not acceptable. During that time, our competitors in America and China, they keep working. We are dealing with, plainly said, stupid paperwork, stupid question. People in your organization are sabotaging your vision, and they are sabotaging the vision of President von der Leyen for simpler and faster Europe. So the question is, are you ready to tackle this entrenched bureaucracy that's there in Brussels? Not for me, because I already got the money, but for the future and for the good of Europe.
For you as well, because you have to report then a lot. Yeah, you're right. It's the time to. It's not time to grant. It's too long yet. Yeah, time to equity is 8 weeks. This is European Innovation Council Fund, but time to grant is really long. And it's unfortunately longer than the previous program in some part of the program, because, as I said, it's a complicated program. It's a European Research Council, then you have the partnerships and joint undertakings in the applied part, and then you have European Innovation Council. I don't want to wait for the next program. What we work now, it's really the regulations are very important that we're going to present in July. They should be much more shorter, not that prescriptive. I don't want to complain with the regulation that already are adopted, and it's not possible to be amended in the middle of the program, but what we try to do is really to work with what we have and to simplify. So it's not acceptable time to grant to be 14 months. It's not from the moment you are selected, it's from the application to the so it's, yeah, but it's still a lot. It's still a lot. I know, yeah, okay, this is even worse if it's true. I mean, if you're selected just to sign a contract, it should be the exercise. And it's because, the reason is because you have so many not financial obligations. Self-assessments, checking the boxes, absolutely bureaucratic exercises, and I completely agree. A lot of things absolutely not necessary to do. Some of them should commission. They should have, and they have the data. There was a lot of debate for example, do not significant harm principle. Why all the applicants are obliged to self-assess them, and especially, as I said, in the projects who are with low technical readiness level. It's absolutely, it's research, so it's not needed, so we deleted this. There are debates now, for example, and I'm very much in favor in policies linked with gender balance, because unfortunately, we are really bad in that. In the previous panel, one of the entrepreneurs, she was speaking about that, and in innovation, it's really even worse than in science. Only 1 in 10 founders is a woman. So obviously we should, a woman, we should support this. But just presenting a good plans when you apply and then not implementing the plan, is it the best way that we should boost this? Isn't it better if you are selected and if you sign a grant, for example, then to make the plan, not to ask all of your applicants to do it? So yes, we are working on that. It's not easy, yes, to change administration, but I have worked in many administrations. I know in the beginning it's a bit resistance that you feel, because sometimes, not bad reasons, I mean, that it's their baby, they feel very, I mean, like the baby. So, but I see the change also in the administration. I see that they embrace the simplification, because it's simplification for them as well. There will be not also need for them to read the thousands of pages of applications and so on and so forth. It's not fast, as fast as I want to do to happen, but I see change. It will take some more time that I want to see. But trust me, the next work programs for 26-27, there will be much more simplification that we propose in that one. But it's not only time to grant. It's also actually how the size of the applications, the complexity of the application, then the reporting as well. Because I don't want to hear non-stop the same from the private sector. It's so complicated. And actually, EAC is not even the worst. I have heard much more to think about other programs that I have to take a debt for 30 million. I have to draft 150 pages of application, and then I don't know how many to report, and I prefer not to take it, and not to take the grant, than to go to try to look for the loans and so on and so forth. So we should really do everything, having in mind that those are public money and we should be accountable and transparent, but also simplifying and do the life of our applicants and our beneficiaries easier. So we are taking a lot of actions. I know it will take more time than you and me want to see, but I see the change also in the administration.
It is great to hear that we're taking steps to tackle this problem, but also congrats that you have chosen Europe. I would like to maybe include also Stefan to the discussion, and I saw a question which is very interesting on Slido, so I'm going to address that to you. So how are Bulgarian VCs performing in comparison to other VCs in the region, and maybe you can also share also how CEE is performing in comparison to the Western colleagues. I can make it 2 questions in one, but I think we're speaking of the same number.
No, with pleasure. Maybe just to address the last point that the gentleman raised. I think being critical is the right thing to do, and there's a lot of improvement and simplification, but let's also be honest that EIC is an instrument. EIF was always indirectly involved in it. That started 5 years ago, Svetla, correct me if I'm wrong, with 100 million as a pilot. Today it's in the billions. It's scaled very quickly, very massively. Yes, there have been mistakes, it's slow, but I think there's a lot of improvements to be made, and I think credit should be given that in 5 years it has worked as a sovereign fund in the way it was entailed to work. Then to the point on CE, which is probably a market that does not get the attention and the credit it should. Maybe a couple of statistics, and I brought my cheat sheet with information just to share accurate information on where the region actually stands. So as EIF, we have invested in CE since 2012, 1.6 billion euros in venture capital only. So this excludes private equity, this excludes private credit, this excludes infrastructure, so strictly speaking, VC tech investments. This is in 73 funds. Out of these funds, 30% can be considered with mature portfolios. So those 30% of the funds have been on the market more than 5-6 years. And out of them, 3/4, so about 10 funds, are actually above or in the first quartile of European performance, in line with the European peers. So I think it's a very good statistic to be proud of. If we take the wider CE portfolio, 75% are either better than the median performance of European peers or in the first quartile. Again, it's venture capital, so we should be cognizant that these are still valuations that are not fully realized. But I think the performance is there. Then when we speak about Bulgaria as such, again, maybe a caveat to mention that most of the funds in Bulgaria that are considered mature have been financed through programs, either structural funds, etc., which have had their, I would say, constraints or limitations to be kind of fully market-driven. And even despite that, the funds that EIF has backed since 2012, I'm not going to name performance because we have very few funds, and I'm pretty sure that if I mention it in the crowd, you would recognize who is who. But we have funds that have been fully realized. They have paid back the capital to investors with double-digit returns, speaking cash on cash, which I think for a young ecosystem with the resources that were there and the path that was walked, it's quite a good result. To me, the big elephant in the room that hopefully there will be a question to address is where is the institutional capital to look, analyze, assess these results, and follow? Because I think there's so much the European Commission, EIC, EIF, or EIB group can do. There has to be the large capital allocators like pension funds and insurance companies that do follow, again, not only in venture capital, maybe in a more diversified portfolio, including other asset classes, but alternative investments in the region as a whole. Probably Croatia is the only country that is spearheading the efforts. Otherwise, from Poland to Greece, we see very, very little activity of pension funds following us, again, from venture capital to infrastructure, which is probably a debate to be had. We are probably also to review and showcase more data, that is to give confidence to investors. But I think after 10 years of history in the region, and specifically in Bulgaria, I think the earlier results are there. Obviously, the mistakes of growth are also there, but that should be taken into account.
No, I believe that especially in our ecosystem, failures are reason or a good occasion to learn from, and they should be also in a way celebrated and welcomed. But the results that you have mentioned, they're quite impressive, and I think we are underestimating our progress so far. Thank you for sharing that. I see another question which has been upvoted a lot, so I'm going to actually ask it, coming from Theodor Panayotov from Ethermind, serial startup entrepreneur. I know him personally, but obviously a question interests a lot of people. So This is to you, Mrs. Zaharieva. When will European founders see a pan-EU startup visa coupled with harmonized ESOP?
So, sorry, what is the question?
When will European founders see a pan-EU startup visa coupled with a harmonized ESOP tax regime? ESOP,
ESOP, I don't know what.
yeah. Stock options for
Stock
employees.
option. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Abbreviation. I really hate them.
Yes.
Stock option. I know.
Stock
I know
option
what
for
is
employees.
it.
So we hire talent as fast as we can do that in the US and Canada.
Okay. This is this is a good question, and I really pan-EU startup visa coupled with harmonized stock option tax regime. So I touch really for short because we didn't have time. What we plan to do with the 28 regime and European Innovation Act, and they are really important legislative proposals. Stock option taxation is a big problem for the innovative companies. I touched a bit, just mentioned the talent. One of the pillars in the strategy was the talent, because actually the biggest assets of the innovative companies are the people. I mean. But for young companies, it's much more easy to attract the best people that they need and talent compared to the much more mature companies. So the risk is higher, and for them, the only option sometimes to have such kind of people is exactly the stock option. But in almost all the member states, the regimes is different. So I'm not naive. I know that it's not realistic to harmonize the percent of the taxation, but the rules, when we tax, how we tax, is something that we are going to propose in the 28 regime and European Innovation Act. So it's coming in the beginning of the next year. About the visa policy, I think that part of this, the actions in the strategy is really linked with the visa policy. First, actually, the European Commission, this is Commissioner Brunner, it's not me directly, but I work very close with his team. And working also with the member states, because it's national competencies, they are actually issuing the visas. So what we do in Commission, what we can support, give them some guidelines, and again, remember them the possibilities that they have in the existing legislation, actually. They have this blue card, we call this blue carpet initiative. So a blue carpet for all the talents that they want to come. So we are working for that. It's with the member states for harmonization, speed up the processes a bit, show them again, because some of the member states are doing this. Obviously, there is not a problem in existing legislation. It's how we implement the legislation, and if it's needed, we are ready really to open the directives and include more. But we think that with existing legislation, a lot can happen for that visas, so those are the things. The two things are happening now when we are working with the member states. But stock option, it's coming in the two acts.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Stock options are also a wonderful mechanism, maybe to recycle the wealth that is created by successful companies who maybe have changed their headquarters, they have moved. Sometimes we cannot keep them in Europe, but this is a way of how we can recycle the wealth afterwards. It can be hopefully reinvested also in Europe.
You know, I asked the data from the European Innovation Council, actually, because about how many of the companies that we finance actually moved to United States or elsewhere, not only United States. And other cases, the companies who are back because of the instruments that we have. And I can tell you that actually, obviously, these instruments are working, because it's less than 1%. So we make a really full assessment of the companies that we finance during the pilot part and now. And it's only less than 1% of the companies are moved from Europe. I'm not mentioning the direction, mainly United States, but not only. And there are some who are back because of the instruments that we did create it. So obviously this helps.
Mm-hmm. maybe we should open again the floor to people in the audience. Who would like to have a question? Maybe you can raise your hand. I see Severina, please. Anna, maybe you can help us with the microphone.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to ask a question. Severina from Dronamics. We are the world's first cargo drone airline, the first one with a license to operate in Europe, and our technology is the only one in Europe with high payload, long-range cargo drones. So for us, we are an EIC company. The ESA has invested in us. For us, it was really important to have the EIC on our cap table, and I'll explain very briefly why. The technology we develop, build, test, and operate is really unique and strategic. And we've received a lot of capital offers from overseas. They usually come with strings attached, like technological transfer. And so far, we've worked really hard to resist those, because we also believe that Europe is one of the best places to live. And we also want to make it the best place to build and grow. So my question, specifically to Madam Commissioner, but also the rest of you, is how can the startups and the scale-ups and the founders and the entrepreneurs and the teams, how they can help make Europe the best place to build and grow? How can we help your agenda, the European Commission agenda?
Thank you, Severina.
Thanks for the question. Actually, you are helping quite a lot, and the Startup and Scale Forum that we launched, and we already have 2 official meetings. But of course, my team literally works on daily basis with some of the participants online. It's really helpful. But I will answer directly. I mean, lobbying of the initiatives in the governments. Because at least half of those actions that we have actually in the strategy, it's not possible to happen without active participation of the member states. And I see a lot of support. We are going to discuss during the Danish presidency the Startup and Scale Up strategy. I really want actually to honestly to have a council recommendations and about that, which is also a way to engage also the council. And this is the way that you can help, because your voice is very strong. You're innovators, you are job providers of good quality jobs. So you also help the talented people to stay in the respective member states. So this is the way to help us. It's really working with the member states as we work with them. Of course, we are working with the ministers, we are working with the governments, but this is the way that your voice is also very, very strong in the respective member states.
Thank you very much.
Maybe
yes, please.
If I may,
please.
First to congratulate your perseverance and efforts, because what you guys doing at Dronamics is amazing. I don't know whether the audience knows, but this is really a deep tech company making drones out of Sofia that over the time has managed to keep operations still in Europe, although there were offers on the table. And I think that the big question that we would have you as a best ambassadors address to policymakers, as Commissioner Herve says, is where's the scale-up capital? I'm pretty sure that had you been founded somewhere else, and there are companies from Germany and the likes that got funded before you, you would have gotten the scale-up capital much in advance. I think the funny thing is that you're there, and all those companies that have received hundreds of millions of dollars went belly up in the last 6 months. So funnily enough, one of the only drone companies in Europe, cargo drone companies in Europe, is out of Bulgaria. So I think you're the best ambassador to ask and push policymakers, because I think your voice is much stronger than ours, because you're on one side of the equation, whereas you're really the result.
Yeah, they're really doing an excellent job, and actually congratulations, because we are on the second round of the new instruments that we support up to 30 million with equity. Dronamics was one of the companies that will be supported. And there's a lot of competition, I can tell you. It's a lot of companies who apply, so they're really good.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point, because last year we launched a call called STEP for larger tickets between 10 and 30 million, which is a first important step towards scaling up companies in Europe. And Dronamics is the first East European companies coming through that. We have approved 11 companies. Dronamics being one of them. So I think this speaks a lot for Eastern Europe, but also for the Bulgarian ecosystem. And you mentioned something very important about the signaling effect of the EIC fund. And I'm very happy to hear that from more and more of our companies, that the presence of the EIC fund at the cap table is a very positive signal. And this enabling effect to the private sector is very important. It plays both ways. Picking the excellent, strong companies attracts investors and obviously help them scale up in the future.
We will probably not be able to cover all the questions. I see Slido now getting more and more active. So I'm gonna maybe open the floor for one more question from the audience, but in the meantime, please look at the Slido and upvote the question which interests you the most so that we know what we should ask at the end. So, live question from the audience. Who would like to address one of our experts here on stage? And now you're suddenly shy. Okay. Then I'm gonna pick one from Slido. This one is in Bulgarian. Feel free, Stefan, to... Yes.
Who can ask for it?
Yes, exactly. This one is in Bulgarian. It's to you, Stefan. You can address it in Bulgarian or in English, however you prefer. Какво е постигнато с Jeremy Bulgaria?
What has Jeremy achieved in Bulgaria, and what are the plans for the near future? Great question. I'll answer in Bulgarian. First, some data on the Jeremy initiative, as it has quite a long history. In 2010, we have Minister Trikov here with us. We worked together on this initiative. Bulgaria was the only country which allocated resources to develop financial instruments. Most countries were shy at that time. They invested very small amounts. So we see the outcome of all that. Out of the 350 million euro, we have 1.7 billion invested in company through venture funds, private equity funds, as well as debt and bank instruments and guarantees. These are revolving resources. These are funds which are not lost. They get reinvested into the economy. And this is a cycle that can run indefinitely if there is political will for that. Something that I should mention is that the whole ecosystem in Bulgaria, and this is not just thanks to EIF, but also the Bulgarian government. There have been a lot of people in Bulgaria who helped ensure that the ecosystem will develop. But we started with 65 million euro that were invested in 5 funds. That was the situation until 2015. Then some of that amount was reinvested into new funds. Together with the fund of funds, we clarified the strategy. So we had larger funds investing in larger enterprises, while the fund of funds invested in smaller enterprises. So we started in 2012 with limited capital, and now we have not just public funding, but also private capital, and investments are also in Croatia, in Estonia, in the UK. So far, Jeremy has created an ecosystem that we hope will continue to exist. As for EIF, as a managing body, we'll be exiting the initiative, but we'll start negotiations with the government to see whether the mandate could be extended. We have also proposed a strategy to plug the gaps in the ecosystem, because it has been functioning quite well in certain segments, especially where we have sufficient funds. We're also able to attract additional capital. But I think the example with Dronamics is a very good one. The deep tech funding is not sufficient. We don't have the capital, but we also lack the expertise. And the same is true of funds that invest in the commercialization of technology and R&D, the tech transfer. Perhaps one of the largest funds investing in Europe, industrial AI, based in London. We were discussing opportunities for investment in Europe, and they were saying that they are seeing an emerging market in Sofia. So my question, well, what's happened so quickly? Well, we were able to create an ecosystem of deep tech companies through the Inside Sofia Institute. There are quite a few such companies already that can be given as examples. So we are investing, we are in launching the funds so that we can plug in the gap. And I think that defense tech is also emerging as something promising in Europe, and I believe that Bulgaria is traditionally very strong in that area. And yet another topic that we're working on, investment in infrastructure projects and assets. Because not just in Bulgaria, but in the rest of Europe, infrastructure goes through public funding. But this is not ideal, and managing infrastructure projects through public funding only is not the best and most efficient way. So we are considering how we can set up funds in Bulgaria that can invest via the green transition into assets like roads, battery storage, AI centers, because the technological revolution that we see would not be possible without a lot of energy as well as data centers. So these are just some of the topics that we would like to work or continue working on, and that would be the third phase of the Jeremy initiative.
Виждам и следващия въпрос, който може
I would also like to say something in Bulgaria. I see the next question is also for me. It may have been asked in English, but I'll speak in Bulgarian. I'm not going to talk about the 8 industries, and I may say clean tech or health. Truth of the matter is we need to be focused, and we are. But let me touch upon some of the things you mentioned, and they're extremely important. Not only in the region. There is a shortage of capital for big tech. And that's because with public funds, we should not try to take over areas which should be supported by the private funding. Exactly the opposite. We need to create capacity, and fact of the matter is that there is not enough knowledge in this field. It's a very specific field, and capacity is not always there. The unicorns globally, companies with trillions in capital, but the big tech companies are the really heavyweight there, but they need a long time, they need more investment, and the rate of return there is smaller. It takes just more time to return the investment. So the whole crux of the matter is in Scale Up Europe and Scale Up Europe Fund is to create the ecosystem together with the private investor in order to have enough capital for that. You touched upon what we call institutional investors, the investors who have substantial portfolios. And let's put it bluntly, sometimes we don't even say that because it is politically sensitive, but here we're talking of pension funds and insurance funds. This is the biggest issue in Europe. If we don't find a solution there, there would be not enough capital in our equity funds. In some countries, there are legislative barriers, but this is not the key issue. The key issue here is ecosystem, the initiatives which motivate these businesses to operate. It may be something like the Trust Investors Network we set up, a voluntary agreement to share information, to cover the first risks, to motivate such investors to expand and, of course, diversify the investments, of course, taking into account all the specifics there. But let's put it that way. In my view, it's an absurd situation with our money, the money of our citizens, to enrich pensioners in Canada, for instance. Some of our pension funds invest there and not here. So we are trying to do what it takes that European, Bulgarian pensioners to benefit from the investments of this fund. Thank you for that. Just 1 minute for you. Yes, I wanted to illustrate everything that we heard from Commissioner Zakharieva. The issue of institutional investment is not a 1 billion question, but it's a 100 billion question. This is more or less how much we need in order for these deep tech companies to grow and be in Europe. But in order to attract this money from the private sectors and institutional investors, it's important to behave as investors on the private market. And an investor that doesn't crowd out the market, but attracts more private capital. And one of the tasks is to select indeed the best private companies. And of course, the issue here is to combine this approach with involving private grants as well. I saw another question which is interesting. Why would the government and the Commission invest in companies which cannot attract at least 40% of private capital? And my answer is brief. We do not invest in them. In order to be supported by the fund, at least 50% of your capital, the capital you put together, should come from private investors. And that's how it should be validated. And it's key, because without doing that, the public sector starts taking over functions from the private sector. Just to add something on institutional capital, we are trying through our funds, when we invest, to crowd in enough private capital. But what Commissioner Zakharieva said is correct. There is no accurate statistics. German pension funds invest more in US venture capital than in European venture capital. And this is a problem for the ecosystem up to a point. It's up to a point a regulatory problem, also related to risk, but Europe has a liquidity problem, and institutional investors want to see a market where they invest and they can get a return on their investment. Some may say, yes, public markets, stock exchanges in Europe may be a solution, but in the US the trend is opposite. Fewer companies get listed on the stock exchange, and this trend is there to stay. So this may be a solution to public markets, but also involving pension funds capital as a permanent investor is important. A rate of return 6 to 8% for pension funds through alternatives is excellent. And it is also a way to complement shares and so on. But then the other question is, how much does an investment cost when you invest in venture capital, because the capital that they need to commit to this investment is charged pretty much. That's why you have to discuss this topic in the context of the rate of return. And what we in TEF want to do, we want our entire database, including data on the rate of return, to be public. It will be called Track EU. I think we do it together with BlackRock. They are our partners. It's not a European company, but the idea is that the results of the venture capital industry of the last 30 years to be visible. And institutional investors will then be able to facilitate their analysis. Yes, as a journalist, I really welcome this idea, and then we would be able to talk about the rate of return in more detail. I saw another question from the audience, probably the last for today. Bojan Žekov, National Coordinator, Horizon Europe. Two questions, one to Commissioner Zakharieva. In Bulgaria, the knowledge valorization in Horizon Europe has not been communicated enough. And to Mr. Tsalov and Ms. Georgieva, you're responsible for public funds for innovation, and you for private funds for innovation. And from your viewpoint, what are the clients that use your facilities, and to what extent is the scientific community a client for your instruments? And what I mean by this question is my feeling that the scientific community is not familiar with them, and the business community is not familiar with EIC as a financing instrument. Bojan Žekov, National Coordinator for Horizon Europe. Thank you for your question. Very important indeed. And I'll right away respond. One of our best companies for quantum technologies is one of the co-founders, is a Nobel Prize winner in quantum physics. So briefly, to illustrate the link between science and business, this is the whole raison d'etre for EIC. It is to bridge the gap between science and this science to make so much progress to get out on the market. And this can be done through our support to invest and our grants. We see it, how it works in the portfolio, but I'll talk about it with pleasure on another opportunity. Very briefly, how this question refers to my organization. The fact that EIF is not so familiar as an organization might be a good thing. I'm not avoiding your question. Our mission is not for EIF to be familiar, but to be familiar the funds where we invest, because we invest in through various channels. As for the scientific community, there are funds which have been through space, green technologies, computers, life science. The scientific community are familiar with these funds, but not with EIF. Our idea is not to be the face that communicates, of the organization that communicates with entrepreneurs. There were two questions addressed to me. I will begin by answering the first question. The scientific community is very well familiar with the EIC. It's one of the biggest beneficiaries. There are several facilities within the EIC, not only the European Innovation Fund, but the Pathfinder and others. And many of the startups or deep tech have been set up by scientists in the first place. And here I will link this answer up to the second question, how scientific results, patents can become products. This is one of the biggest problems of Europe and European universities in general. In very few of them, there are well-working services for technological transfer. It's a difficult task. There are not enough experts in this field. Through Horizon Europe, we supported the setting up of such entities, and we asked to see an analysis as to how they work, whether they work well, what they need. What I see so far is we need to put a lot of effort into training people. One thing is to set up such entities, and another for them to start performing. And we discussed this in the first panel. Very few are the universities where this is being done. In some universities where they truly perform, they set up individual companies, companies with not much money. They support the spin-out companies, but the purpose there is to support young people, not only young people, scientists, to start up companies. And this is where we need to work. If we don't do it, we would be proud to say that we have 22% of all the patents issued, but only 1/3 of them received the respective permits and can be implemented into products. I see unique products which are needed in the society, which are needed by people. And very often this never happens because there is no expertise, there are no people who know how to license the product and set up a business. And here we must say it's very important for business to support the universities in setting up such programs there. Thank you for this final answer. I perhaps need to ask another very short question. How can we keep up this dialogue? There are still a lot of questions we did not answer.
Dismissal?
От тук нататък
How can we keep in touch between the ecosystem, the investors? Well, we have continuous meetings with the ecosystem. I mentioned that already, but truth is that supporting ecosystem is one of the key tasks for us at the European Commission. And when I ask somebody why you decided to move, the answer is not always, well, I needed capital. Sometimes they say, well, I went somewhere that everything is in the same place. In Europe, we have good ecosystems, but the idea is to strengthen them, to support those which are not that well-performing, but also, and most importantly, to connect those ecosystems. And this is one of my tasks for the rest of my term of office. So I'm convinced that this would yield visible results. We're open to dialogue. I'm always available together with my team. So we are easy to approach and discuss matters with. Well, thank you very much. Thank you all. With that, I close the session, and I think I should invite you to lunch. Thank you.